In this video, we're going to create the camera. All right, so what we need to do is we need to create the piece that the camera hangs onto. Now, looking at the front view here, you can kind of see a little bit of this edge that kind of hangs off, and it attaches to the frame of the camera. So the camera itself is mainly a box, but there is this little half cylindrical piece that it attaches to. So looking at this, what I want to do is I want to take this guy right here, and I want to borrow some geometry from that. So what I'm going to do is, actually, you know what, let's just clone it. Let's hold down Shift, and let's clone this over to something like that. Let's hit OK, and then I'm going to go to polygon mode, and I'm going to take these polygons and just squish those in real thin like. And then we'll take these polygons here along the back, and we're going to extrude those. And the way that I want to go about doing this might be a little bit different. Let's go ahead and extrude it in the local normal, and we're going to do positive X on that. And actually, you know what, let's actually do it by group, because by doing it by group, what it will allow me to do is have this flat edge right here, which I need. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that, and I'm just going to pull this back to right here, and then we're going to make planar in the X direction. And so in our left view, let me just hit Alt X on that. Actually, I can't see it through this piece, so let's select this. Whoops. This actually might just hide those pieces. So let's right click and hide selection. Same thing for this one. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these vertices and, oh, let me hide that one too. Hide selection. There we go. Let's grab these vertices, and I'm going to pull these here, but I'm going to have to get to a point to where I can actually just take all of these and pull those forward here, like this. Now, looking at this, I don't really care too much for the topology that it's giving me, but it's not going to really hurt anything. So what I'm going to do is just make it like this. So you'll notice I have this nice little loop right here. And then what I can do is just grab those polygons that are on the top and the bottom, like this. And let's go to our left view, and I'm going to extrude those. And I'll just extrude those up until they match the top and the bottom there. All right, and then I can now go to my perspective view, and I can select all of these polygons here, and then I can just extrude those out. Okay, so let me hit OK on this. Now, this is part of the camera case itself. So all I need to do now is go to my front view and just pull these across. Now, looking at that, it looks like I got a little bit away from the edges there for this piece. So let me go ahead and pull this over. Let's go ahead and unhide all. And it looks like this piece right here just needs to come over like that. So hit Alt X. There we go. And I'll try to get that flush on there the best that I can, but that should be fine. So now we've got this piece for the camera. Now, looking at this, what we've built is okay, but it could pose some issues with the smoothing of this. So as we go around and we start to crease these edges, we'll have to be very careful with what's right here in the center. So just be mindful of that. All right, so we've got that part built. Now we need to build the lenses, which are going to be pretty simple to do. Let's go to our front view. Let me hit Alt X on that. And let's go ahead and go to our cylinder. And I'm looking at this, and to me, it kind of appears like maybe it might be a little offset, because it looks like the lenses should be in line with these pieces here. Just kind of thinking about a form thing there. I think it'll be okay. Let's go ahead and go to our snap, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to turn off vertex mode, but I am going to turn on midpoint, and I should be able to go ahead and create this cylinder on the midpoint of this object. Now before I start that, let me go ahead and select these pieces and hide those, just so that way they're not being taken into account whenever I'm trying to draw this cylinder out. So let's go ahead and take the cylinder, drag it out from this midpoint, and it looks like it's going to get really large there and it's going to try to snap these, but it's not a big deal. Let's go ahead and just draw this down right to the outside there, and then I'm going to keep my height. Let's do a height of 3, and the cap segments are all okay for now. So now that is in position. All right, so now that I have that, let's go ahead and go to our front view and let's convert it over to editable poly. And let's go to edge mode. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. And let me turn off my snapping. And I really don't need this segment along the back. And I need to remove those edges there. And then we'll just simply hold down Control Backspace. Whoops. Let's not grab these. So Control Backspace, there we go. And then I can go to polygon mode, select these 4 polygons here. And in our front view, if I hit Alt X, I hit Control X, I need Alt X, there we go. And then what I'll do is go ahead and scale this up to where it goes right to the outside. It's a very thin piece of metal that goes around that. And then this piece is actually the lens part of that. Now, looking at the lens, let's take a look at it in our perspective view. You'll see that it is round, but it has this square shape cut out of it at the corners. And so what I need to do is build that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take these polygons right here. Actually, let's take all of these first. And I'm going to pull these forward in the left view. And pull them forward out to here, just like that. And then I'm going to take just the interior polygons and extrude those into the camera. And I'm going to give it quite a bit of depth just for now, just so that way we know that it's out of the way. And then with that selected, I'm going to hold down Shift and drag that polygon out and create a new object out of it. So I'm going to hit OK, turn off polygon mode, and select the new object that we've just created. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to take these 4 polygons and I'm going to inset them. And I'm just going to inset them at 1 for now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my front view and I'm going to select those vertices at the top and I'm going to make them planar in the Y direction. Do the same thing here. Grab these 3, make them planar in the Y. And then I'm going to take these and I'm going to make them planar in the X direction. And so I've just created this square out of these polygons. Now, the square that's cut out of that, it's not perfectly square like what we have here. It is a little bit kind of rectangular shaped. So I'm going to grab my scale tool and scale that down just a little bit. So something like this. Now with that, I'm going to go ahead and extrude it, or not extrude it, but inset it. And we'll inset it at 0.2. And each time we inset that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude it back in a negative direction. So let's do negative 0.2. And try that one more time, negative 0.2, and hit enter. And then we're going to inset and hit OK, and then extrude and hit OK. And let's do this 2 more times. And actually, we'll do it, we'll just inset it and extrude it 3 times. That's good. All right, so now that we have this piece right here, now what we need to do is we need to get the lenses that are going to fit onto that. So we could go ahead and delete this out, or we could keep it. Whatever we want to do in this is fine. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just leave it but then I'm going to go to my front view, and I'm going to use a sphere to build this out. Now with this sphere, I'm going to go ahead and set its segments to 8 before I create it, and then I'm also going to turn on vertex mode again, turn off midpoint, and create it right here in the middle. Now it does appear to be blowing that up again, but it's not a big deal. I'll just create it and then draw that down. And so we're going to take this to a height of 2 to get us started, and then we'll take a look at it from here. So it's leaving half of that lens, which is fine. It's exactly what I want, but I do want to flatten this out a little bit. It doesn't need to be perfectly round like that. Let's convert it to an editable poly. Let's go to polygon mode and select those back polygons and simply delete them. And then I'm going to hit Alt-X, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and scale this in the Z and X to create an interior lens. So there's this cover, and then there's one on the inside here. And so I just want to be able to have that thickness there. So now let's hit Alt-X on these pieces. I'm going to leave these as transparent just so that way I know what's happening with those. And then let's just reveal everything again. Let's right click and unhide all. And there we go. So now I can just grab all of these pieces for the camera. And with those selected, we'll just change their color and apply that material. And there we go. So we've finished out all of the parts on our camera. Now there are a couple of little details that we need to create that we just didn't do on other parts, and it's not a big deal. We just kind of moved on and got to the major pieces themselves, but I do want to go ahead and block them in because they are part of the mesh itself. So really quickly, let's add in the cylinder that's right here in the middle. So on the bottom view, let's come in, and what I'm going to do is just create it right here. And just create it, and let's do maybe 3 on that. Well, let's do 4. 4 looks pretty good. Let's do a height of 2. Let's go to our front view on this and turn off that snapping, and I'm going to grab my move tool and pull this up here. And I'm going to pull that up to where the top is inside that bracket, and then we're going to adjust the height of this until it hits right at the bottom there. So it's a height of 3. Go ahead and convert it to an editable poly object. Now you'll notice that with this piece, the wires are actually going inside of that. So what I want to do is just make a modification to the wires. Because these are instanced, all we have to do is just select the top vertex of that one line, and then we can move this into position. Now I just want to move this to where it's still inside of that bracket area, but I don't want it to go into the tube that we've just created. So now I've got these wires here. That's looking good. Now they are overlapping one another, so I'm going to take this vertex, pull that across here. And so now they're resting on one another. They're not necessarily resting inside of each other. If you need to make some adjustments to that, you can do that, but now you'll notice it's not inside of that piece. The final thing that we need to do is on the lower arm here, in our left view, you'll notice that we have this little piece kind of sticking off of the bottom there. So let's go to Edit Poly, and we have to go to the very top one to do this, because remember, we lost the ability to do that symmetrically, seeing how we've added that, and I do not want to lose any of that information. So let's go ahead and go to Polygon mode, and in our left view, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select these polygons, and let's do just these polygons right here. And I may have to make some adjustments to that, but I'm going to use just these for now. Let's actually use these. I think it'll be okay. So I've selected that, and it's selected them all the way through. So all I have to do now is go ahead and extrude. And in this, we're going to do extrude local normal. Actually, you know what? Let's do by group, but then I'm going to set it to 0 and hit OK. And then I'll just pull it straight down in the Z direction. So in the left view, let's hit F3. You'll see this comes down. Let's go to here, and we're also going to make planar in the Y direction. So it comes down right there. And now with all of these still selected, watch this. Let's go ahead and inset, and we'll adjust the amount that's being inset there. Hit OK, and then we'll extrude it one more time, leaving it at 0. And then we'll pull that down for those little rubber pieces that come off the bottom there. So now that we have that, that concludes the blocking in portion of this mesh. So now all we have to do is start adding in our details and smoothing out our geometry to give this the final look that we want. Now there are lots of steps that go into this process of adding the details. We need to make sure that we add them carefully. We need to make the decision if it's worth modeling the detail out, or should we just use a texture to do that. We'll talk about what that process looks like. And then we'll start talking about smoothing. And as we start to add the open subdiv modifier to this to smooth it out using that smoothing algorithm, there will be some things that we'll need to control as far as the hardness to keep the shape of the drone that we've created here. So we'll talk about that stuff in the next module.